Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. 2021 is coming to an end, my friends. How to sum up this year? Yeah, I mean, you can only really go uphill after how awful 2020 was, but I wouldn't call it great. Still, a marked improvement. We got vaccines for the pandemic, at least. That some people are refusing to take. And I'm still on the side of better than not having it. Let's have some optimism. And there's certainly a lot of good to talk about when it comes to this show. For one thing, starting with the Batman Hush review, we're no longer splitting longer episodes into multiple parts and adding mid-rolls for super long stuff. Details explained there. As such, since these end-of-year videos have a long recap of the year before we actually get to the list, instead of splitting this into two like last year, the two parts are separated into chapters with time codes in the video description. But speaking of that Hush review, if 2020 was the year of reviews about crossovers, then 2021 was the year of Batman. People could not get enough Batman reviews, with 2 issues of the Round Robin book DC Challenge to feature him, the classic and most fondly remembered The Dark Knight Returns, 2 Secret Origins month episodes focusing on Batman-related characters, and 3 more Patreon-sponsored ones for The Dark Knight. The animated Justice League's opening 3-parter, featuring the ever-amazing Kevin Conroy Batman, a review of the live-action Batman v Superman Giant Monsters All-Out Attack, and even weirder than any of my previous crossovers, the one where Batman fights Elmer frickin' Fudd. And what makes that crossover even stranger was that it was actually pretty damn good. It wasn't just that you guys wanted to see so much Batman this year, it's that you wanted such a variety of Batman. Screw Marvel Multiverse stuff, where's our big team-up of all the different Batmen? The only other subject I covered with as much content, even if it was just 3 very long episodes, was my retrospective on the old Marvel Transformers series and its sequels. 3.5 hours of me pontificating on a franchise that I'm really only a casual fan of. This is what I mean when I say that I'm an enormous windbag. We did 3 Star Trek reviews this year, with diminishing returns each time. The first at the very start, where we looked at the unique combination of a record and a comic with Dinosaur Planet, a Patreon-sponsored episode where Star Trek crosses over with the Legion of Superheroes, and an episode that I really wish more people had watched because I think it might be one of, if not the funniest episode of the show I've ever done. Star Trek number 9, wherein a scientist tries to steal Spock's brain, that old Star Trek cliche, and I'm not even joking about that at this point. And we got to meet the 45th President of the United States, Anton York. Like, I cannot stress enough that I wish more people watched that episode. I'm that damn proud of it. If I ever do another 15 favorite episodes of the show list, it's close to the top. Pause this video and go back and watch it. But on the subject of Patreon-sponsored episodes, this was a great year for those. I already listed off the Batman-related ones, but just in general, the selections people had were eclectic, but fun. From the obscure stuff like The Mighty Heroes, or a 90s miniseries for Stanley and His Monster, to some anime ones for King of Braves Gao Gaigar, and 2 more Pokemon episodes, to even another crossover on the subject of Transformers, wherein they team up with the Ghostbusters. Tell me, Jason Reitman, where was the ghost of Ectotron during Ghostbusters Afterlife? We had a webcomic arc, half of a Dresden Files arc, and even the beginning of an arc in Gokaiger featuring this fabulous bastard. Patreon sponsors upped their game this year with some great fun stuff to look at, and it'll be interesting to see if 2022 can top it. But of course, the stuff I got to choose to do this year was pretty fun as well. I got to do a review of the Mystery Science Theater 3000 comic, where a full third of the episode was just an explanation of what the hell MST3K is. This is the kind of content you don't get from other YouTubers. You know, good ones. I continued a few series that we hadn't seen in a while, the Star Wars, Just Imagine Stan Lee creating the DC Universe, and the New Guardians. And we're closing in on the end of several series, US1, Mr. T and the T-Force, which even when that series ends, as a reminder, we'll still talk about Mr. T stuff afterwards. There's a whole Mr. T graphic novel I haven't even gotten to yet, plus I got A-Team Season 5 for Christmas, and that's good for a few years before everyone remembers, oh wait, it's Season 5 of the A-Team. And Ultimate Power, which, spoilers, we're finishing that up next week. Expect the episode to be like 5 minutes long since I've repeatedly had to cover 2 issues at once because of how lacking in content those comics are. Whatever, I made multiple hour-long episodes this year. It's okay to keep it short once in a while. I started, or at least continued, some stuff that had become staples. As I said, DC Challenge got 2 reviews. During Halloween, I began the Ring reviews that'll run for a few more years. And then there was Youngblood's Strike File, which certainly exists, I guess. Also had some cameos from people who I haven't really shown before here because they weren't also on that website I used to be on. I don't know people exist unless I share a website with them. That included Gaijin Goomba in the Codename Ninja review. The gang from Comic Pop somehow showed up when I was setting up Christmas decorations. And then I think I showed up when they were doing their Christmas stuff. Also, Quentin Reviews gets to be haunted by spirits now when I shoot at them. We also hit a milestone episode with the 666th episode, where we got to see the band Kiss fight Dr. Doom and Mephisto. And I'd say that's worth schedule slippages for the last few months. No, it isn't. Nothing is ever coming out on time ever again. Speaking of things not going to schedule, at least we made some significant progress in the Contest of Champions. Namely, I actually fought some rounds in the Contest of Champions, which also makes this year better than 2020. Round 2 saw me take on the wrestler Heavy Rex, and by that I mean Bone Button did it because I like not having my spine broken by a suplex followed by a chair. And then getting into a race with Sphinx Yonder. Yeah, weirdly, you guys haven't seen it yet. Apparently there's some weird encoding issue on the footage, and the Contest of Champions channel says it wants exclusivity on the footage for subscribers to their network for a while before they'll release it to me. I'll show you guys the race as soon as I've got it. And then during Halloween, I took on a slasher killer named Billy Tor, and I technically wasn't the one who beat him either. Dr. Linksano went to the guy's universe, ran for president, and ended the curse that enabled him to live. It was one of those rare occasions where the government actually tried to help people. So hopefully the contest will finally end in 2022. I'm confident and hopeful at least. And hey, I'm gonna be in the finals, so I might walk away with an infinity gauntlet. First thing I'm gonna snap back is Arby's potato cakes. Can you believe them getting removed from the menu happened this year? Oh yeah, and unrelated to the contest, the house somehow got transported to Ohio and a blue border almost killed everything. People kept asking why the hell I didn't do anything about it. Because there was a blue border around everything! I couldn't see past it! Besides, I didn't have to do anything. I heard some virgin took care of it. This year also had some major staples of the show undergo some changes. For starters, the theme song got changed to the version I used in the 600th episode because in my efforts to be less toxic and insulting towards creators, unless they're racist or homophobic or transphobic or just awful sacks of crap in general, because those deserve nothing but insults, it was time to finally remove specific names from it. Rob Liefeld might not be a good artist in my opinion, but he is an artist. My critiquing should be about the work, not the person. It's just often that their awfulness sometimes bleeds into their work. Hi, Frank Miller and Holy Terror. But also because of the continual issues with YouTube's Content ID, an evergreen statement, really. I was fortunate to not only have the ever-talented Il Neige produce some title card music, but the also-talented Alan Peterson produce some that I've been utilizing for the holidays. I know many people miss the old snippets of music I used to use. I do too, I thought it added personality. But I've got a bunch of old episodes that got claimed because I dared to have the music last for a whole 10 seconds instead of 7. And who the hell knows if that will stick? I might not even be able to get away with 5 seconds in the next year. You know, because YouTube hates the people who use it. Speaking of title cards, Dr. Crafty retired from being the show's title card artist after 12 long years to focus on his own YouTube content, while the ever-wonderful Vega took over and has done a magnificent job of it, and you should equally check out her channel if you get a chance, where she talks about various art topics and is quite hilarious about it. Also, she does commissions occasionally. Pay her money. Just overall, it's been an interesting year. Not a great one, but interesting, full of change and laughs and frustrations and me talking a lot about Batman. And I think it's time to look back at even more than just this year and list off still another 15 missed opportunities of Atop the Fourth Wall. Jokes, remarks I could have made, observations that I didn't make, and just in general, make fun of bad comics even more than I already have. Here's a joke for you. I'm putting the theme song in here, even though we're probably like 10 or 15 minutes into this video already.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach
Number 15, from Godzilla, Kingdom of Monsters, number 6. When you're doing this show week after week, you've got to crank out material as quickly as possible. Obviously, I never want to sacrifice quality of jokes to cover something that I don't think will be entertaining. See all the times I've swapped out episodes just because I couldn't make what I was talking about funny. But sometimes I just miss stuff. Quite a few entries on this list will be things in the art I either didn't notice or just kind of brushed off because I was busy trying to get it done. And getting it done and out so I can get to work on the next one is more important than pointing out everything in the comic. There's a reason I often refer to myself as the Roger Corman of internet reviewers, is all I'm saying. So you can forgive me failing to recognize in this year's review from Godzilla Kingdom of Toothless Satire that we had a background cameo. During the segment when a reporter is talking about refugee camps, in the background we can see Jimbo, Kearney, and Dolph, bullies from The Simpsons. And look how happy they are back there! I mean, they should be. Sure, Springfield got trampled by Godzilla, but it'll be back to normal next week with no problem. And hey, these three are no strangers to cameras filming them.
Videotaping this crime spree is the best idea we ever had!
Ah, well, this is on me for not recognizing the three when I reviewed the comic earlier this year. I hope they can forgive me.
You let me down, man! Now I don't believe in nothing no more! I'm going to law school!
Number 14, from Comic Book Quickies, number 10. This one is less a missed opportunity given I did take advantage of the joke, but rather with the nature of Comic Book Quickies episodes, I try to keep them short so I didn't fully take advantage of it. As such, let's keep the train going with this one, shall we? The Cosmic Cube can do anything! Can it help me move a couch? The Cosmic Cube can do anything! But does it know why Apple Jacks are called that despite not tasting like apples? The Cosmic Cube can do anything! That's great. Can it cover my shift tomorrow? The Cosmic Cube can do anything! Does it know if Soggies will rule? The Cosmic Cube can do anything! Can it let DC have a proper cinematic universe? The Cosmic Cube can do anything! It can do anything! But should it do something? It can do anything! But should it do something? The Cosmic Cube can do anything! Can it help keep History of Power Rangers in a consistent location? The Cosmic Cube can do anything! Can it bring back slide-out keyboards? I hate touchscreens. The Cosmic Cube can do anything! Can it tell me if man is still alive in the year 2525? The Cosmic Cube can do anything! Can it unlock new skins and hats in Among Us? The Cosmic Cube can do anything! Can it finally help me destroy rock and roll? The Cosmic Cube can do anything! The Cosmic Cube can do anything for love, but it won't do that. Number 13, from Youngblood and number 8. Kind of a small one, but shocked I didn't go further on it in the original review. I spent a lot of time in the Youngblood number 8 review talking about this panel, focusing most of my attention on how the narration specifically calls for stars in the sky, and instead the sky is filled with this big frickin' moon. Anyone want to tell me that this friggin' moon is nothing to complain about and it's just artistic license? Because with how huge it is, I think that license should be revoked. But no, the missed opportunity here is relating to the buildings. I specifically called out that these buildings are essentially just prisms with crossword puzzles pasted on them. And how could I not take up the chance to fill out that crossword puzzle? Okay, 1 down is lazy, 3 across is doesn't pay employees, and finally I think 8 across is misses deadlines. Wait, no, that can't be it. After all, how the hell could Rob have been missing deadlines when this is what he produces? Number 12, from Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. This one actually comes from a specific commenter that I said I was going to steal for this because it's too good not to use. Thanks, Rick Daniel. I mean, how could I not think of this? It not only references the Frank Miller garbage that Zack Snyder loves so much, but it's also a smaller recurring gag in this show in relation to Aspar. During a dream sequence, Bruce Wayne enters the family crypt and Martha Wayne's part starts bleeding, which Bruce puts his hand in.
I touched my mother's tomb. It bled on me.
And speaking of Batman... Number 11, from Batman Odyssey number 2. You know, there are many words I can use to describe Batman Odyssey. Lazy is not one of them. And this is the issue where Batman takes time out of beating up goons to explain to them why shooting a hydrogen fuel cell won't make it explode, describes his body getting hit repeatedly with bullets and getting knocked around by them as jacking, and then is a flashback within a flashback where he pulls out some guns and randomly shoots into a train car to get the people to go further in so they don't get killed by explosives. None of that is lazy. And in fact, while there are certainly some goofy artistic points of Neil Adams' bizarre little story, I'd say the artwork is one of the things legitimately impressive about it. Full backgrounds most of the time, layouts are good, action is still exciting and well told. It's the exact opposite of the friggin' crossword puzzle buildings and the moon about to collide with the earth that Youngblood gave us. And I think that might have been the idea, to distract the reader a bit, because the bread that sandwiches all these insane plot points is Bruce explaining all this to some unseen figure. And they just reused the same artwork for it! The only difference between the two pages, aside from the dialogue and the credits on the first page, is that the Batman costume is bloody in the ending page. Both panels are about describing being shot, so it's not like they don't still work. But could Neil Adams not be bothered to draw some different poses for Bruce, or alter the layout of the page so it wasn't just copied and pasted? Batman Odyssey is a gift that keeps on giving. And we really wish it would stop. Number 10, from Teen Titans number 27 to 28. This is one of the artistic ones that I did notice originally, but I just didn't really think it was that important. And yet, it's still so appropriately bad that it deserves some special notice. Teen Titans number 27 to 28 are a bizarre little duo of comics with Gail Simone writing and Rob Liefeld on art. Oh yeah, Rob's showing up a few times on this list. Apparently I've been holding on to several missed chances to critique and joke about this stuff for a while. After dealing with a bunch of generic, uninteresting villains who never show up again after these issues, the Teen Titans return to the tower for some R&R. Naturally, this means bowling, where everyone is hanging out in full costume except for Beast Boy. There's actually a few things I didn't really go over, but the main thing is this first panel, where Kid Flash hits a strike. And by hits, I mean he threw the ball across the room at the pins! Look at that, he didn't roll the thing, he tossed it like it was a friggin' baseball at a carnival. I mean, the idea is probably just that he can move so fast that he throws it, but he's still limited by the weight of the object. It's not like he can just pick up a building to throw at something in one go because he's fast. Bowling balls are kinda heavy. Hell, even if that is what he's doing, I think that's probably against the rule somewhere that it didn't hit the ground before knocking down the pins. Like, maybe if he had used his super speed to roll the ball fast enough so that it didn't have time to change its direction, that'd make more sense. But no, just throwing the thing around like a water balloon. Just go with that. Later on down the page, Raven apparently keeps hitting gutter balls, but the art never shows us that. Maybe Rob has some kind of phobia to floors, so he avoids drawing anything touching one whenever possible. That would explain the lack of feet thing in so much of his art too. Number 9, from Zero Hour, Crisis in Time. We'll make this one quick. It's another one where I could have played off a running gag, or clip in this case, and done a variation of it. So Zero Hour is a story all about time travel and the universe getting devoured by entropy, which might be related to something we talk about next year, given a Patreon poll I'm going to run early into it. But specifically, at the end of time itself, someone hit the negative function on the universe so that the stars are black and outer space is white. And thus, space is white and time is bendable! Number 8, from Ultimate Power number 7 to 8. You know, you already expect some poor quality work from a Greg Land drawn comic when so much of it is just traced. Barely any work on his part as it is. But then there's something that you don't expect to be copied and pasted. Maybe it was him, maybe it was the letterer, maybe it was just an editor who wanted to shove the thing out the door and get it over with. But we have a case where writing was placed into the book. Oh, not any of the dialogue or caption balloons, no. Like I said, this may not have been Greg Land's fault. Might have just been placeholder stuff meant to be filled in with something else later. But it seems that while the villainous email Burbank was expositing why he's actually Lex Luthor and is super jealous of Hyperion, the Superman XP, we have a flashback to a newspaper article about Hyperion that shoved email's Nobel Prize announcement down into more of a footnote. But then again, I don't know why he's so upset. It's not like anyone could read either article, because all of the text is Laura lorem ipsum! For those who don't know, lorem ipsum is common placeholder text put into something to demonstrate formatting and layout of, say, a website or a magazine. Instead of using actual words, it's a bunch of corrupted Latin nonsense words and has been in use since the 1960s. And apparently this newspaper just printed it all like that! I mean, for crying out loud, there's even a magnifying glass into his little Nobel Prize announcement, and they couldn't be bothered to add a real sentence there for that. It didn't even need to be anything big and impressive, just like, scientist Emil Burbank, known the world over for his achievements in science, was awarded the big science prize for his science. Like, I joke, but most of that wouldn't be visible in the magnifying glass portion, so it'd still work. But nope, just use common placeholder text. I can't really blame the paper for this, though, because even the Nobel Prize Emil won is using it! Maybe I've got it all wrong. It is a parallel universe, after all. Maybe in the Supreme Power universe, the written language is so different that it actually just uses lorem ipsum, and what really counts is the order you put the words in to get meaning out of it. The smartest man in the universe. That's what Time magazine called me 3 years running. Are you sure that's what they called you, Emil? Are you sure that they didn't just say you were lorem ipsum? Because that seems more in line with how things work here. Number 7, from DC Challenge number 1. So a couple of years ago, we added yet another unusual enemy to Batman's ever-expansive roster of unexpected enemies. VHS tapes. Yes, according to DC Challenge number 1, Batman much prefers beta tapes to VHS. His words exactly. However, it was pointed out to me that it seems the Dark Knight is a little confused about that. The tape that was sent to him that prompted him to announce, "At least they said beta and not VHS," is in fact a VHS tape. Yeah, you can tell because the tape has 2 windows on it to show the magnetic tape spool. A Betamax tape would only have a single window on the left. I don't know, maybe there are some models of it with 2 windows, but somehow I doubt that that's intended to be anything but a commercial, regular old beta tape.
So I don't hate VHS? Have I been angry about the wrong format all these years? What, is there going to be a comic where it turns out I actually love rock and roll?
Number 6, from Titans/Young Justice, Graduation Day number 3. Hey, remember that miniseries Graduation Day? I do! Unfortunately, in case you don't remember, it's the garbage 3-issue miniseries that ended my favorite iteration of the Titans and also the original Young Justice run, to the gritting teeth of many Young Justice fans, and to like the 3 people that still liked that version of the Titans, myself included. The biggest sin of the story is killing 2 members of the Titans. Both got better, eventually, and a few reboots along the way. Comic books! And at the funeral for Donna Troy, we see a large gathering of heroes over 2 pages. How large? Well, it's so large that the Flash came to it twice! Yeah, and this is not a case of Barry Allen and Wally West both being there. This was still a few years before Barry came back to life. Bart Allen, aka Impulse, hadn't become the Flash yet either. There's one Flash next to Superman, and another Flash behind Robin and Impulse who isn't even looking the right way. Maybe this is a second Wally West. After all, Heroes in Crisis showed that he could just decide to casually travel back in time to relive his own pain and suffering, so he went on a self-pity tour to all the crappiest moments of his life. Also, Wally's gotten better since that trash fire. Again, comic books! Number 5, from Future's End. It's easy to overlook problems in Future's End, because there are so many of them, so many stupid moments, so many annoying characters being grumpy with each other, so many leaps in logic and craptastic edgelord decisions on what to do with some characters that it's easy to miss something. Can't see the trees for the forest, to mangle a metaphor. So right in the middle of all this nonsense, we have a group of characters, including Frankenstein, Amethyst, and Hawkman being captured by the interdimensional version of Brainiac. Because of shenanigans within the story, Frankenstein has a dream about the dark, stupid future of Earth where Brother Eye takes over the world and arbitrarily shoves torsos onto robot spider legs, or Batgirl turning into a signal light. Even after all these years, I just have this image in my head of her bouncing around like the Pixar lamp. Anyway, point is, Frankenstein is super worried about this terrible, terrible future, partially because I think we caused it.
Oh my god! No, they didn't! At all!
Like, the thing I enjoy most about Frankenstein's story is that he is actually the least involved in the events that transpire. His resolution with Amethyst is completely disconnected from the rest of the narrative, and is consequently the best story in Future's End. I think the implication here is that they somehow drive Brainiac to attack Earth, thus necessitating the activation of Brother Eye, but Brainiac was gonna go after Earth anyway. Frankenstein and the team's involvement in events didn't push things in a particular direction or anything. Future's End, in a story all about trying to avert future events, it couldn't even foreshadow its own plot properly. Number 4, from comic book swimsuit issues. A few years ago, we took a quick, snarky look at a few comic book swimsuit issues. Aside from riffing on some goofy art and captions, the book also contained parody ads for various products related to Marvel characters. People were also confused why I was wearing sunglasses as part of my outfit, and I'm just... Summer? Beaches? Wearing sunglasses while outside and whatnot? I didn't think it was that obtuse, but I guess I'm the one who doesn't like intense sun glare. Then again, you were probably confused because I'm a pale nerd who films comic book reviews in his basement and shuns natural light. A particular ad in the first Marvel swimsuit issue had this crime against God and nature, although it was probably done deliberately like that to emphasize how ludicrous Liefeldian designs could be. I mean, I don't think characters of this type would have a paddle ball and slingshot along with a missile and a quiver full of arrows after all. I mean, maybe with just the missile. But my particular confusion stems from the text at the bottom. 401 Zip Your Zipper. What I didn't realize was that this was specifically parodying a jeans commercial, featuring Liefeld himself. It was for the Levi's 501 model of jeans, with an ad campaign called Button Your Fly, hence Zip Your Zipper. Still didn't feature a button on a gun, but whatever. Oh, but it gets better than that, because this commercial was directed and briefly featured Spike Lee as well. Liefeld's even drawing him as a superhero called the Spike Man in it. It's an appropriate combination of Rob Liefeld, who at the time was popular for his Marvel stuff, and Spike Lee. After all, as Marvel established, Spike Lee is the Kingpin. Spike Lee is the Kingpin. Excuse me, I need to go slip into some stock footage.
Forgetting you is a thing that I cannot do.
What a bygone age this was, where comic book artists could be famous enough to show up in jeans commercials, and in turn be parodied by Marvel after he left to go help make Image. Number 3, from House of M. When I reviewed House of M for Event Comics Month 3, Crisis of the Secret House, and by the way, look forward this March to Event Comics Month 4, Secret Metal Armageddon 2. Please vote for events next time with similar names. I noted that one reason why the review was shorter than most of the others was because there was just so much padding in there and plot points were stretched out to fill the runtime. In House of M, Quicksilver convinced Scarlet Witch, whose mental state was fragile at the time, to alter reality so that mutants became the dominant force on Earth. However, because I considered so much of that padding, it led to me skipping over talking about a few individual scenes of establishing the House of M versions of characters. There wasn't a lot of stuff to talk about other than Doctor Strange being kind of a terrible therapist. Come to think of it, that probably matches the proper Doctor Strange too. But commenters were quick to note the one revolving around Cyclops and Emma Frost. They woke up in Hartford, Connecticut, Cyclops making breakfast for her, but we got a weird confluence here. Either the artist didn't get the memo, the writer was not instructed to cut the reference for legal reasons, or an editor didn't notice and didn't care. But pedantic dorks like me do! Cyclops makes Pop-Tarts for Emma in the morning. Toast-shaped Pop-Tarts. Slice of bread toast-shaped Pop-Tarts. Or maybe Emma Frost is an idiot and she's been told all her life that toast is Pop-Tarts. Or maybe they were showing solidarity with the Kellogg's strikers and making bread instead of Pop-Tarts. Or maybe Cyclops can't actually see very well through the ruby quartz sunglasses he wears and thinks he made Pop-Tarts and Emma is just humoring him. Or maybe Wanda made sure that when she altered reality, Pop-Tarts were just a term for toast because Magneto would always insist she eat Pop-Tarts as a member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. mutants. We can't know for certain. But what we do know is that this is not a Pop-Tart, and nobody working on this comic cared that it wasn't. Man, why did Brian Michael Bendis go with a Pop-Tarts reference and not a Hostess fruit pie? Number 2, from Youngblood Judgment Day. Short and sweet for this one, and while our penultimate missed opportunity is from a Rob Liefeld comic, it's actually on the writing side of things that is the issue. And shocking at that, since it's Alan Moore's writing. It's a massive plot hole that basically makes the rest of the comic pointless. So the plot of Youngblood Judgment Day is that it's the trial of Nightsaber, who has been accused of murdering fellow Youngblood member Riptide. Most of the meat of the story is to establish an overall history of the Awesome Comics universe, although that history is really a pastiche of DC characters and their own histories. Plus, you can make a drinking game out of how many times I say pastiche in that review. During the trial, various characters recall history revolving around a magical book that could rewrite reality. One of these characters was Laurie Sanders, aka the Maximage. Using the power of the Maximage, she is able to channel one of her predecessors in the role to recount part of the book's history. Now, Maximage knows how to do this, even though she admits that she's never channeled one of her predecessors before. Basically saying she knows how to talk to the dead at a murder trial. So does someone want to explain why she doesn't summon the ghost of Riptide to just have her tell them who killed her? And the number 1, still another missed opportunity of Atop the Fourth Wall, is from The Wild number 1. This is not really a jokey missed opportunity, and you'll see why. And some of you are scratching your heads anyway because you forgot I reviewed this comic. A lot of indie books that I've reviewed are like that. The Wild was a strange little story that I looked at in my continuing hunt for a new brute force, which I think I found in the pages of the toy tie-in Animax, we'll be getting back to that next year, about anthropomorphic animals in a post-apocalyptic setting fighting off an empire of ducks. It wasn't the worst thing I'd ever covered. It wasn't the best, but considering some of the trash I've covered, it was certainly enjoyable and, well, wild. A lot of its issues were technical ones, and a lack of exposition about the world until a big history lesson in its final pages. Honestly, saying that it sucked in the original review was probably harsher than it deserved. The thing that's annoying about these kinds of indie comics is that I'm limited in what I can find out about them, why they were created, who were the people behind them, story inspirations, etc. So the missed opportunity here is less me overlooking something, but rather not being able to find anything about them. Earlier this year, to my shock, I actually got a comment on the video from Darren Calhoun, the co-creator of The Wild. Now, as a reminder, do not send my reviews to creators of the comics. It's considered rude, especially if it's a negative review. It's not the job of a creator to check out reviews. They're just putting out the product. If they want to seek out reviews, that's their prerogative. And it can put the critic in an uncomfortable position of having to defend their opinions to the actual creators if they decide to engage. In this case, Darren was nothing but polite and kind, even liked the voices I gave the characters. I decided to take the opportunity to contact him and see if I could get some behind-the-scenes info on the book. With his permission, I'm sharing that with all of you. Finally complete the backstory of what the deal is with The Wild. He and the penciler, Josh Diffie, were old college buddies who loved comics and B-movies. After a failed attempt at submitting some work to Dark Horse Comics, Marvel artist Mike Witherby, whom Darren did assistant inks for at the time, encouraged them to create The Wild. The characters came from an old tabletop RPG that Josh had done in high school called Gamma World. Originally, the book was called No Man's Land, which I think actually would have been better, and they pitched it to Kevin Eastman, co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, for his then new company, Tundra Publishing. Now, Tundra is a whole story in itself, but the point is that he was actually interested and wanted to see a finished book. And that's where the difficulties started. They managed to pump out the artwork pretty quickly, but Mike Witherby was supposed to ink it, and sat on the pages for 6 months with only 10 pages completed. Darren had to finish the last 10 pages himself, but by then they were too late. Tundra got sold to Kitchen Sink Press and weren't accepting any new books at that point. Mike felt bad about that and financed printing the book independently. What followed from there is Darren getting screwed in a few ways. A friend of Mike Witherby's, Clifford Meth, was supposed to be in charge of editing and publishing, but Darren ended up needing to learn the intricacies of the comic publishing and distributor system himself to try to get the book printed printed on time for Comic-Con. Aside from Diamond and Capital distributors themselves screwing up several things about the book, including listing it as a black and white comic despite being in color, and consequently hurting its potential sales, since by this point the black and white boom was over and stores were less interested in them, Clifford did not end up doing the rest of the work needed on the book, requiring Darren to rush to get it done and printed on time. This, as it happens, is why the lettering in the Wild is so bad. To quote Darren, "I lived in Kinko's copy renting a computer, using the dreaded Comic Sans font in Word, cutting out word balloons to paste in the book." Although what's funny to me is that it doesn't really look like Comic Sans, but maybe it was a variation on it. The point is that he was rushing to just get the thing done. Sadly, the book only got 6,000 orders, and thus they only broke even on the costs. What's worse, the book was scanned incorrectly, so the colors lost a lot of their saturation. In its defense, though, I've reviewed books that make my eyes bleed with their color choices, and those were from Marvel and DC themselves, who are supposed to be the big guns, so I think The Wild still looks decent, even if it didn't come out the way it was supposed to. The first 4 issues were actually all completed, but Mike Witherby pulled his funding, and so they weren't able to print the second issue. Josh Diffie lost the pages to the rest of the books in a move, and even more tragically, Darren Calhoun himself was in a semi-truck accident in 2002 and lost the ability to draw as frequently as he used to, so chances for a revival for the property are slim to none. While I'm always nervous about creators seeing my show, since, let's face it, I'm a hyperbolic shouty man in a purdy hat who makes boner jokes and screams, "I am a man," this was an opportunity to ask about creative decisions for the book, because when it comes to media that's bizarre, or in other cases bad, I honestly do want to know what was going through their heads. In this case, I asked why the book was done in media res when it was such a different sort of world, and he explained that it was to keep the book simple like a sci-fi B-movie, so readers were going to be introduced to the world over the course of the first 4 issues, and get straight to the exciting bits like a 90s action movie. The reason for killing off some of who seemed to be main characters right off the bat was to try to keep the book different from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Only 2 of the initial group would live, and they'd gain 2 more permanent cast members later. While I don't necessarily think it was a good idea to do it like that, I applaud the reasoning to keep it unique. Hell, I've mentioned in a previous episode about Exiles killing one of its main characters right away to make it clear to the readers that nobody's safe. There is a narrative logic to it. So yeah, this final missed opportunity wasn't really big on the laughs, but I consider missed opportunities to be more than that. The end of the year and beginning of a new one is a chance for reflection, to shed ourselves of the baggage and pain from the previous year and feel like we're starting fresh. Sure, there's nothing necessarily that different, and let's face it, some of 2020's garbage spilled over into the first week of 2021, but much like how everything's spookier around Halloween and everything seems brighter and cheerier at Christmas, the new year feels like people get a chance to exhale for a moment before taking on the world again. It's a chance for us to think about what opportunities we've all missed, a little more information to be sharing, a few more jokes to be made, and try to resolve to be better than we were before. That's it for 2021. Next time, we'll finally be finishing up Ultimate Power, and hopefully 2022 will bring us less missed opportunities. Or maybe it was a Target employee who took care of the blue border? God, I hope the world we live in gets less weird next year. Well, guess I wish for too much. Hello my friends, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon or purchase a t-shirt via Teespring or Shark Robot. Thanks for watching!